All right. Hello, Arnold and Ruben. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can
All
you?
right. I think we're good. So Arnold, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Good morning, everybody. Nice to be here at the second Nebul webinar. Today we're gonna talk about connecting your corporate data to AI safely. How does this work? How does this improve the outcome and relevance of AI for your business? Because that's basically the ultimate goal of using artificial intelligence. We're joined today by Ruben Razzia from NVIDIA, who was kind enough to share the NVIDIA strategy and approach to building AI for the enterprise and the latest developments in NVIDIA technology. Hi, Ruben. Welcome to the webinar. We're very glad to have you here. Maybe a quick introduction of yourself might be in place.
Yeah, I am Ruben. I am a technical enablement manager for partners like Nebul in EMEA, supporting Nebul and their customers to get the most out of AI.
Well, thanks, Ruben. So let's see what we'll cover today. We will be talking about the rise of customized AI and see how you need to connect your corporate data, sensitive corporate data, to make AI become more precise and relevant for your business and move the needle in terms of quality and output and results. Connecting sensitive data to AI requires stringent data privacy and guardrails to prevent data leakage or loss. So Ruben will be talking about the NVIDIA technology stack and what they have developed to help enterprise to build enterprise AI applications much quicker and without reinventing the wheel. We'll close up with some practical steps how you can get started with the NVIDIA technology stack, and we'll do our best to stay within the 30 to 40 minutes of this webinar. If you have any questions for Ruben, Pam, or me, don't hesitate and put it in the chat. We'll pick it up during the webinar if it's a good question and fits the topic we're talking about, or we'll get back to you at the end. So let's go over now. So today, to start with, how are enterprises using AI? Well, we see that companies are using it in different models. Everybody's using ChatGPT today, which is great for learning and experimenting, but it needs some customization if you want to improve the quality of the model and make it more relevant to your business. So some companies like to take the standard approach and use a model like Llama 2 or Mistral or any open source foundation model to do some fine tuning on that to improve the models for their business. The second one, or the third one, is that companies build it all from scratch and create a fully customized model. Every step takes the complexity increases, and it takes more time to adapt. So this is why we think the majority of companies are best served with moderate customization, and that extensive customization is more for larger enterprises or tech-savvy software development companies. So if we look to the use cases, for many still, and obviously ChatGPT helps with that view. ChatGPT is a chatbot, or AI is a chatbot, but AI is way more, of course. So yes, it's text generation. Yes, it's text interpretation and chat, and that's what people use it mostly for at this point. But the general consensus is that AI will develop into something like an interface for humans to interact with applications and data. So the LLM is the operating system in this, and we think developments will go very quickly in this realm. Companies that care for their future and start experimenting with AI and develop capabilities in their company so they can accelerate at scale when AI adoption accelerates. We're going to talk about how you're going to connect your data and why that makes sense. So
So
the mic to Pam. Yeah.
So first of all, we're talking really here about how to leverage LLMs, which is the big thing this year. Starting last year. in general, when you're just interacting with an LLM through an interface like ChatGPT, you're talking to software that is basically then the model's trained on the entire internet, some subset of the internet, and kind of boiled down into what is essentially kind of a compressed version of that. And so you're talking about very generalized data. And so we're in the phase now where enterprises are considering, well, how do we use LLMs for our benefit, right? That can be for summarization, writing reports, all kinds of text-based things. And for it to be really useful, we would rather than use a generally trained model. We would rather have perhaps a smaller model, which is trained instead on the specific area of expertise of that company. So, for example, if it's a hospital, we may want to train specifically on all the materials that a doctor would study in his medical or her medical studies, so that model becomes a kind of expert, first of all, in that specific realm, and second of all, we want to connect data, which is the focus of today. We want to connect real-time and private or sensitive internal data. That could be patient data in the example of the hospital, or specific procedures. Whereas training is hard to get an exact output very often. With RAG, which stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. It's a fancy word for connecting your database or file data. We can get exact answers, so more as citations or references. And we can also then give real-time data. So, for example, in an airline system, we might want to deliver real-time flight information, and that would not work very well with training a model or fine-tuning a model, but that would work really well if we were connected in real time, perhaps via some streaming data system, and connecting that real-time data as a reference. So when you connect your corporate data, we get into a kind of conversation of private AI versus public AI. Both are appropriate for their various uses. But really, if you're a corporation and you have sensitive data or data that you would normally consider to be GDPR compliant or PII, personally identifiable information, customer data, addresses, phone numbers, medical records, this is something that absolutely should be only considered with private AI. We don't want to upload that type of data to third-party, LLM companies or AI companies. And so there's a big question about where does that data reside. So one approach is that, you as a person or a company would upload your data to systems like OpenAI or Google's Gemini or Amazon Bedrock, for example. And the other approach is that the private AI approach would be, well, let's build in a private cloud or in our own infrastructure the data sets or replicate them or leverage them. And then let's bring the AI tools on top of our data. We'll do the training. We'll connect the corporate data. In that context, nobody else is training on that. There's no chance of that data leaking into a public system. So from our perspective, we think that as corporations engage, they have to really think about these privacy issues, and especially in Europe with GDPR and the fact that some companies are of course not owned by European entities. To be fully sovereign legally, you have to be a European-owned company, as well as keep the data inside of Europe, right? And so we're not going to get into why that's important, but I think if you're a company that understands that is important, then what we call private AI is the right approach for that. We support and think it's a good idea to use, public systems for experimentation, right? Build a practically working model, perhaps with OpenAI's OpenAI's API. You can test and build systems. You can build demos. Of course, don't attach your sensitive data to that, but it's fine to build a practical, beta test. And once that's completed and you figured out what you want to do, then we can train that LLM privately, internally, connect our data. So we say public AI is fine, and public AI means publicly available AI systems that are hosted. those are fine for all the testing as long as you're not connecting your private data. But now we can go, and with NVIDIA's tooling and their software stack and their hardware stack, we can build that internally. And of course, then you're also not paying the very high fees that are associated with the public services. So this comes back down to what we call the principles of private AI. That is fundamentally stick to your corporate policies on how you control your data. So either that's in your own data center, it's in a private cloud, or if you say, well, this data is not sensitive and it can go in a public cloud, then that's, then you're sticking to those policies. But we think mostly corporate data probably, shouldn't be exposed or taking any risks. Using open source technologies, and I say open source, I mean, they could, it's still important to have supported technologies, to have enterprise support on these things to some degree, but open source meaning that there's transparency, right? When you put something into an LLM, you'd like to understand, what's the potential of that coming out. And open source systems give us insight into how they work and how they handle data. And so that's not always the case with what we call public AI. We want to be able to maintain sovereignty and compliance. So sovereignty in Europe means that you're storing your data in your own entity, in a European-owned entity, or also that your company is in fact owned by a European entity, right? There are certain risks that again are probably obvious about storing data with foreign companies that are outside of the EU. All of this with the goal of maintaining strategic independence, right? We don't want 2-3 years down the road to be completely dependent on some commercial AI system where maybe there's a massive hack which we're exposed to. Maybe the prices go up dramatically and it becomes unaffordable. We've heard cases of the costs on those public AI systems being wildly out of control and undoable for large cases, not for all cases, but for very large ones. In fact, so private AI is a set of principles. If you're a corporation, you're a government agency, you're a university, it's almost certain that you probably should be considering these type of principles. And obviously that's something we can talk about with you. Finally, I just want to point out the strategic nature of NVIDIA's solution, right? So if you look on the left, OpenAI, Copilot, Google Gemini, AWS Bedrock are all good solutions, right? I think everybody's on the innovative side of this. However, you are kind of locked in a sense to that solution, right? So if I'm building on Google Gemini or I'm building on Bedrock or OpenAI, obviously I'm somewhat locking myself into their commercial approach, right? And what we really and our customers really appreciate about NVIDIA's approach is that NVIDIA's software stack, which Ruben will talk about shortly, is a software stack that can be deployed on top of any, in this case, we're talking about DGX where we think it works best. But the AI stack can be deployed on premises on your own solution. It can be deployed in our private hosted environment, which we do for our customers. But also you could deploy NVIDIA's software stack on Google infrastructure, on AWS infrastructure, on Azure infrastructure. And this means that it's what we would consider to be strategically independent, right? You always have multiple choices how to port this software and these solutions to different places. And therefore you're not locked in, right? Ultimately, you do need to use some type of hardware and some software, but with NVIDIA being 90% market share right now in the AI space, we're confident that that's the right choice. And now the question is just the software stack. Ruben.
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Arnold Bram, and for the kind words. It is, I think, very well known that NVIDIA makes GPUs that carry a lot of the AI revolution. But what is maybe less known is the importance of the software, as you mentioned. And if you can go to the next slide. Because if you want to build a custom model, you actually need a lot of software. First of all, you need a lot of data. That's the second item on the slide. But you need accelerated infrastructure, where NVIDIA traditionally comes from. And preferably, as Arnold showed in the intro, you need to leverage a state-of-the-art pre-trained model. And to combine these things will bring you a software solution that we now call an AI foundry or an AI factory. And if you move on to the next one, then how we see this service existing, for example, running on an AI enterprise on a platform that Ben mentioned called DGX, running on Nebul, with Nebul, is you create you choose a foundation model, and you create an enterprise model that you can then run anywhere. And to answer a question in the chat as well, yes, a lot of the AI work is being done open source, but NVIDIA AI Enterprise running on DGX at Nebul has security measures built in. And we will validate and vet all updates to the open source. And so you are not handed over to the community support for open source. You have an enterprise license on support and security and manageability within NVIDIA AI Enterprise running on NVIDIA DGX to create your AI factory for your enterprise model or your corporate model.
Hey, and maybe I can add into that, Ruben. NVIDIA also builds the AI enterprise, which is foundational for this technology, right? So you guys vet and test all those software packages, open source software packages, so enterprises are assured of stability and technology, right? So
yeah, so AI Enterprise is a part of the DGX solution that Nebul offers, and AI Enterprise is a fully managed, secured environment for AI models like an LLM with NeMo, which we'll touch on further in the slide. And since the open source community is going through so many iterations, it is often undoable to maintain your own infrastructure and to maintain your own models and maintain your own open source infrastructure. And that's why we have created NVIDIA AI Enterprise to allow our joint customers, Nebul and NVIDIA customers, to work with a validated, safe, and manageable system to incorporate their very, very important private data. And that is where I think this differs massively from other solutions. And if we move to the next slide, because if you want to create your own LLM, you have to start with data curation, which of course there's a lot of open source tools for. You have to select a model, which you then have to customize. You have to evaluate, and you have to run inferencing. Then you have to do the information retrieval, as Ben mentioned, retrieval augmented generation, and preferably add some guardrails so that your LLM doesn't go off topic or starts hallucinating. And only then you can integrate an LLM into an enterprise application. So all these things are driven by open source solutions. And again, as mentioned, they run on DGX. But to make yourself as an enterprise depending on open source is quite scary, because realistically, you never know what an AI developer is going to commit to the GitHub, GitLab, or whatever Hugging Face or other repositories. So with NVIDIA NeMo,
right, Ruben?
Yeah.
You can at least see it before you deploy, before you upgrade, right?
Yeah, for NVIDIA, you can see it, and we'll have version tracking and management and all those things. So NVIDIA NeMo is a part of NVIDIA AI Enterprise. NeMo stands for Neural Modules, which is our framework for large language models. And it brings together all these 7 items to allow you to deploy an enterprise model, a custom enterprise model inside your enterprise application. And that is, as mentioned before, where the actual value comes in, because it is amazing what these generalized, very big scale models can do and can offer you already, as I mentioned in the intro as well, for a playground and for some generic chatbot interface, but they do not know about your organization. They do not know the intellectual property that you have. They do not know the state of your business. And that is where the real value comes in for a private AI and a private LLM. And again, it starts with these 7 items that you bring together to build a custom enterprise application. We are discussing now a language, and you see in the bottom left-hand corner, very soon we will see enterprises integrating multimodal models in their enterprise applications as well, where you can ask, quote unquote, a chatbot to generate a new product based on products you have designed before, where you can ingest sales data from those products, that you can get a projected sales on the new design that you've generated with this new multimodal. So there will be, we are starting now at language, but we will very soon be moving, and the industry will soon be moving to multimodal. And if you move to the next slide, if you see the how relatively easily we can integrate language and existing language into a language model, or enterprise data into a language model, it is basically these 8 or 9 items on the slide. You start with a foundation model. You choose on the bottom left, and you start, of course, with the user interface. You then choose a data framework for LLMs that in NVIDIA's case is NVIDIA NeMo. That stands for, again, for neural modules. And this data framework integrates the foundation model with your enterprise data. Whether that's a vector database, whether it's a bunch of PDFs you upload, whether it is, we have seen examples where customers wanted to chat with their old Microsoft Access database, which I never thought we would see again, but they are still very much in there. And these language models, they allow you to get a lot of information about data that's hidden in your organization, because those language models will go look based on your prompt inside the whole bunch of data to find information for you. And that is where the real value comes in. As was shared on the slide before, more than 2/3 of enterprise data is hidden. So data that's hidden is of no value. And if you find the data, and if you make the data accessible and searchable and interactable with, I think that's where the Nebul offer also comes in and makes this very valuable for your for you as an enterprise in the corporate and in the business, to be able to interact with data you never knew you had. And a lot of the models are here on the slide, the Bloom and MPT and the text embedding technologies that we have with TextQA, with Palm, Dragon, all those things, LangChain to provide a chain of custody over your data, to add also some guardrails in the data framework. All these things need to be brought together in an AI factory. And that is what NVIDIA and Nebul are offering together in the Private AI Foundation, is that you bring your data. And Nebul and NVIDIA DGX and NVIDIA NeMo will do the rest in the AI factory. We provide you the infrastructure, so you have to bring your data and select a model, and Nebul and NVIDIA together will create your AI factory for you. That is a very brief intro on the NVIDIA software stack that we're bringing together. Of course, there's quite a lot more to this going on in the background, but as an industry, we have been speaking for a long time about the technology behind this and the very nitty-gritty details. For me, the key takeaway from everybody listening would be that the technology is solved. Find your data, select your model, and bring it into a data framework, and then you can start getting value out of the data that you have been storing for so and so long.
Well, thanks, Ruben. That's a great story, and thanks for sharing the insights on the NVIDIA strategy. Really helps getting better insight on what you guys are developing next to the GPUs, right? Where everybody knows NVIDIA from. And also great to see that you guys have created a very mature platform like AI Enterprise and services that are easy to consume, like AI Foundry, to help companies of all sizes build better AI solutions. So thanks for that. This story will also be posted online, so if you want to view it again later, you have every opportunity to do so. So people keep in mind, NVIDIA is not just delivering the GPUs, but also the full enterprise software stack. And we are able to help you with that if you want to implement that on premises or in any cloud. It creates a consistent AI platform for you to run your own AI-enabled applications. So thanks for that. Yeah, so the whole private approach is ticking all the boxes, right? So what I just said, what Bam just said about private AI, There are some principles. We think the NVIDIA technology solves all those questions, and you're able to run the platform in a consistent way anywhere you want. If you want to do it on AWS, Azure, on premises, or within a EU data center like ours, you're able to do so. And when we talk about the infrastructure, everybody knows you need the NVIDIA GPUs to run those new AI applications. And that's what we deliver from our technology stack. We've built our own NVIDIA AI infrastructure with the DGX supercomputers and GPU accelerated infrastructure. It's a full stack, high performance computer workload with the high performance storage and networks you need to keep those data hungry GPUs filled with enough data to get them at full efficiency. It's a full certified stack, so you know that all the components that you need are certified and working together as a whole completely. Infrastructure, well, it seems very much a commodity, but I can assure you that HPC infrastructure is not as easy as it looks. It's actually very complex to design, build, and operate. And with our on-premises solutions and cloud services, we try to tackle those challenges for companies. We take away the complexity by using the NVIDIA certified designs and our proven homebrew best practices, and we solve the supply chain issues that people might undergo. There's a lot of demand in the market for GPUs today, so waiting times are 6 months to even a year, what we hear, to get GPUs delivered. So what we can do is offer our cloud-enabled services for companies in the meantime, so they can start working on their own AI solutions without having the equipment in their data center already. And we use the developed best practices and automation to deliver higher quality and solutions with less error and dramatically shorten that time to delivery for them.
If I may, Arnold, may add, I think that's a very important topic that you mentioned is it is an end-to-end integrated solution that Nebul offers on NVIDIA DGX. It is not to say that anybody couldn't build it by piecemealing together several GPUs on many different servers, downloading open source models, integrating it all into their own MLOps setup. That can definitely be done.
Right.
You need a specific type of organization to be able to manage these things. A lot of our partners and customers do not, maybe yet, or do not have that knowledge in-house. And they can leverage services like the Nebul cloud, the Nebul Private AI Cloud, to run AI factories and to run AI foundries without having to invest and wait on the GPUs, without having to invest in all the knowledge, without having to design these and pretty complex systems, networking architectures, and all storage capabilities. So that is, I think, a massive benefit of what Nebul Cloud will bring to the enterprises and customers that are listening now.
I like to think it's a little bit like if you want to join a race car event, let's call it F1. Yeah, you can train your own pit crew, you can build your own F1 car. That's very, very difficult. And with NVIDIA and Nebul, NVIDIA has already built the car, has built the procedures, and Nebul is the pit crew. So you're the racer, right? So yeah, you could build it yourself. It's a fair point. It's just very complex, right? So we all together want to make it really simple for everybody to deploy, because this is an entirely new stack of hardware, entirely new stack of software versus what most enterprises are managing today.
Exactly. So take the complexity away and make sure that people are able to focus on the outcome, right? So that's what it's all about. So finishing that part up, right? Yeah. So this is our end approach. Maybe Ben.
Yeah, I wanted to just come back really quick on one question from Sammy in the audience about open source security risks. I just want to make the point that I don't think the security risk is so much about it being closed source or open source. It's more a question of where your data is, right? So data is the fuel for your AI. AI inside of the enterprise becomes useful the more you give access to your own data. So if you deploy open source, or let's say closed source, but it was in your own data center, nobody else had access to it, that is the bigger issue, right? The bigger issue is controlling the data, and what you want to avoid 99% of the security risks. Don't upload your data to an external party, right? That's the real question there, right? And also Nick had a comment on data discoverability, metadata, and obviously I loved Ruben's comment on extracting value from all your old data. Of course, there's a function of how good is your indexing and metadata, right, on that data. But if you can vectorize old data and you have the appropriate metadata, then you can do magical new things with all that old data and ask questions to it and really get into it. So, okay, so here a little bit about our approach on what we call the private AI journey, and that's broken up into a kind of workflow which we see as research, experimentation, preparation, and inference. The research phase, these are actually, think of them as products, services that we offer. The first stage, we noticed that a lot of companies are very advanced with their AI strategies. They have existing teams. They know what they're doing. Others, it's a little bit new, and so we have a series of research and workshops where we can help identify with what data sets you have, what you're trying to accomplish with AI, and really get a little bit of focus based on our experience and our clients' experience together with NVIDIA on where's the best place to start, right? So that's usually the first step. Step two is a kind of what we call a micro experiment, right? Let's say you have a petabyte of corporate data that you want to leverage. You don't need to experiment on the entire petabyte. We can take, a couple gigabytes of data, or maybe a little bit more. We can build the model. We can do some basic experimentation. We can see the results on that subset of data. So in other words, the cost and the time is much smaller. And then we can confirm those results, and now we can move on to the phase of understanding what kind of resources will it take, how long will it take to train or connect data, what are the complexities. But it's nice to have a working model in advance of huge investments, right? And that's something that in our data center, we have DGX and the full high performance compute stack running and all the software. So we can help build these experiments with you. Once that's understood, we can talk about, what's the budget to actually, are we going to train, pre-train? Are we going to fine tune? Are we going to connect data? All these decisions in this process, think of this as the training phase or the optimization phase. That's before we go into production. And when you get to stage 4, that's where you're making the choice. Where are we going to host this? Is it on our data center? Is it in public cloud? Is it in Nebul's, private cloud with private AI? And then we also connect the corporate data, which is again called retrieval. So inference means that you're actually running the LLM in production. You're asking questions and getting answers. Retrieval means that you've attached your sensitive data. And of course, this is the critical part that we're talking about today. The whole first part is kind of a lab scenario, and the second part is a kind of production environment. So just as a very quick reminder, we have DGX full stack, systems with networking and storage. We use VAST data for that. We use InfiniBand. We use, Ethernet networking, but built up to be highly tuned. We have that running in our data center, turnkey for customers who want to start, in the next few days. And we can also deliver that knowledge and that full stack of equipment into your private data centers, deliver it, manage it for you or with you, or just deliver the hardware. So that's how our offering is kind of put together. Obviously, reach out to us if you're thinking about deploying, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. Almost to the end, guys. I just wanted to cover real quick that we're a huge fan of building what we call a partner ecosystem, right? So we're partnering up with companies like UbiOps for management, Run AI for GPU virtualization, weights and balances for logging and tracking LLM training, VAST Data, who's known as the leader in AI storage today. Dell, which is a great partner of ours, on many regards for helping build the infrastructure, and we're working with DDN, who's also used NVIDIA's using DDN internally, which is quite well known. So, we're going to continue to build out this ecosystem and build up these relationships so that it's advantageous for our customers. We are a DGX cloud service provider, so we can help build that in your data center or in ours. And the nice thing about this status with NVIDIA is that we also get direct NVIDIA engineering support. So if we get stuck, which even happens occasionally, everybody gets stuck on things, we can always call in NVIDIA directly to support us, which we're really happy about. So finally, I think this is the last slide. Really appreciate your patience, everybody. If you have any last questions, please feel free to ask them now. So private AI is for corporate use. We're not talking here necessarily about people. There's ways to protect your data quite easily, already. We're talking here about legal and corporate policies. Our AI factory with NVIDIA includes, the industry-leading hardware. That's the GPUs, the networking, and our storage partners, as well as the complete software stack. And just again, to emphasize, not everybody's familiar that NVIDIA is also, a leader in computing stacks compared to Google Gemini and Bedrock. And that's the message that we want to get out, right? Is it's a complete solution and can be deployed anywhere. Support is super important, very critical at this stage to not go down the wrong path. Don't waste money. Bring the experts in at the beginning. Let's talk about your solution. Let's run an experiment. Let's figure out what kind of GPUs, what kind of infrastructure you really need. In our model, we're a big believer of predictable cost, right? So we kind of do a month to month in general, where the cost is fixed and you get unlimited use for that hardware. So we do have a model where we can charge per second or per minute, but we find that becomes very expensive in the long term, right? So it's convenient to pay per second or per minute, but if you want to get a stable, consistent cost that the CFO will enjoy, right, that he doesn't get stressed out with all his FinOps every month, we provide that kind of very stable costing. Finally, with our infrastructure already running, our DGX cloud already running, we call it actually our Nebul cloud running on DGX, powered by DGX, you can start tomorrow, right? So for experimentation, for large-scale training, for large-scale deployments, we're probably the only, I'm going to say probably because I can't say for sure, but we're probably the only partner in the Netherlands that has multiple DGX stack running, and we always keep a buffer so that, for new customers, we can always start immediately. So just looking at the questions really quick, I see some interesting comments. I'll kind of, Nick has some great comments about data discoverability. But yeah, I don't see any more questions.
No questions.
Most of the there's a whole bunch more at the bottom, but I don't see any questions. Okay, so we're happy to wrap it up. Want to really, I guess I'll go to this is the last slide, right? Yeah. So if there's any last questions, let us know. And otherwise, we're super appreciative of Ruben joining us today, and thanks to Chris Kerker for helping us to set everything up. Thank you so much to NVIDIA, to VAST, and our ecosystem of partners. And we, encourage you to reach out to us anytime. There's multiple ways, and we'd love to talk to you about how to deploy this year with your AI and especially your corporate data and how to protect that. Arnold, last thoughts?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I guess you summed it up pretty good. So happy to talk when people want to start their AI journey. So don't hesitate and ping us. And very thankful for Ruben being here today. So
thanks, Ruben.
Was a great talk. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. By the way, we're going to post this webinar. We're going to post on our LinkedIn channel. It'll be available about 1 minute after this ends. So you'll be able to go to our LinkedIn channel, click on events, and you'll be able to watch this. And Engine is asking, is where can we get the slides? We will send out an email post this, and we'll provide a link or the ability for you to request the slides. So appreciate the question. And you can always ping us for any slides, information, and please, feel free to watch again. It'll be posted immediately after this. So guys, Thank you. We're going to wrap it up here. We're going to go to our outro and end the stream. Thank you very much. Yes. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye, guys.